The only thing we can be sure of. The only thing we can be sure of.
All right. All right, that's enough of that music. Can you guys hear me?
Gotcha.
Yep.
All right, welcome to another edition of MGoRadio. This is MGoRadio 7.3. I am going to host today because Bryan's not having a very good day, and I had to bring in some Rutgers experts to help me with this edition.
Well,
so,
there's a bleak sense.
welcome MGO blog Rutgers correspondent Bryan MacKenzie.
Afternoon.
And as always, Alex Drain, who's did the dirty work of watching this team for us again.
It was real dirty this week.
Yeah, I gotta teach you how to chart screens. I was like, you're like, well, he had all these catchable passes, and I'm like, no, he didn't. All right, so we also I got to thank our sponsors. We are sponsored by Underground Printing. UGP has 3 retail locations in Ann Arbor for thousands of University of Michigan athletic products. Check out ugpmichiganapparel.com. I was there today, actually. We also want to thank all of our associate sponsors. That would be Peak Wealth Management, Home Sure Lending, Ann Arbor Elder Law, Michigan Law Grad, Human Element, the Phil Klein Insurance Group, Prentice 4M, and SignalWire, which we are using right now. And if you're a person who skips the ads, do not do so this week. Trust me, you're going to want to hear this one. All right, so, fellas, we have to preview Rutgers. And, I have to admit I didn't watch them play Syracuse. I didn't watch them play Temple. I did kind of sicko watch them against, who was the last team they played? Delaware. And only because I kind of wanted to see the helmets and the Delaware outfits, right? Like that. So how are they against maize and blue teams when they're not wearing maize and blue? I remember last year. Is that going to happen to us again?
Well, it's an optimistic place in Rutgers land. I don't remember who this was on Twitter, was delving through the Rutgers message boards, and there are some Rutgers posters who are feeling good about this week. They're 3-0 for the first time, I think, since 2012. Is that right?
I think 2012, yeah.
Yeah. So, after last season where they were within a few plays of bowl eligibility, and a really good recruiting class for next year in the making. A lot of optimism in Rutgers land. But if you look at the tape, it's not that different.
So, I mean, is this any different than the offense that Michigan faced last year? Because Michigan got a little beat up by this offense last year, right?
Yeah, they did. It's interesting because I watched the Rutgers offense against Syracuse, and then I had to rewatch the highlights from last year against Michigan because I was just like, how in the world did this team score 40-some points? And against Michigan, they were throwing the ball down the field a lot more than they did against Syracuse. Against Syracuse, they were really keeping it to 8 yards or, closer to the line of scrimmage. The occasional deep shot, but it's a healthy dose of screens, and then if it's not a screen, it's an out route for 4 yards, or it's a 5-yard hitch, or it's a 3-yard slant. I mean, they keep everything close to the line of scrimmage through the air. And their other issue in this game in particular that I saw was, the offensive line was real bad. And we ended up putting a cyan circle around, I think, 3 of the 5 on the offensive line.
Which is always doomed for us, by the way. Like I've done that for Michigan State year after year, and then all of a sudden, like they seem to be okay when we face them. But I mean, I saw the tape that you showed, and they're rotating their right tackle in and out all the time, right? So
Yes.
So even they admit that they got one problem, and then the left tackle, that's a guy that we've seen for a long time who's not much of a pass blocker, and you think that's why they're not throwing downfield?
Potentially. I mean, I think it's just the total issues of, I mean, Vedral was under fire often in this game against Syracuse. And, it's worth noting, I put this in the piece, but Syracuse is bad. They went 1-10 last year. I don't really know what's happened to them. I mean, they got Dino Babers, who was supposed to be an up-and-coming coach. They had a couple decent seasons under him, and they have fallen back. So it was not a good opponent, and yet Rutgers really got manhandled at the line of scrimmage. Had no real success on the ground. Their yards per carry numbers across the running backs group was really grim, especially given the quality of competition through their first 3 games is nothing close to Big Ten caliber. We did end up putting the danger man on Isaiah Pacheco. He's still around. He's still pretty solid, but his utility to the team is grinding out extra yards after he gets hit, because he gets hit 1 yard past the line of scrimmage if he's lucky.
So it'd be fair to say that this Rutgers team is now the Michigan State of the Big Ten. Like they've got the running back, they've got the big running back, right? Who would be great if you ever get him in the open field, but you got an offensive line that can't get him there, and you've got a passing game that is just mostly screens.
Yeah, I think that's pretty fair.
I
mean, the other thing to note about this game too against Syracuse is that they win the game despite having, I think, barely 200 yards of total offense. I'd have to look back on what it was. Syracuse is, again, very bad. A lot of turnovers, which is a theme so far. I believe Rutgers is +8 in turnover differential through 3 games, which feels pretty fluky to me. And Syracuse turned it over on downs a couple times in addition to fumbles and interceptions. And they had an 8-yard punt from their own 10-yard line. So Rutgers had it starting on the Syracuse 41 or better on 3 straight possessions. And that was 10 of their 17 points. So if Michigan's defense is about as good as Syracuse's, or as we hope, significantly better, as long as you don't hand Rutgers points, I'm not super scared of their offense.
Bryan, what's the worst case scenario here? I mean, are we looking at Dax Hills freaking out in the middle of a pass again? That's the only thing I remember of the last game. I think is there are a couple McNamara passes, and I think that there is one where Dax Hill had an interception if he played it right and just did not.
Yeah, but I'm looking at this. I'm trying to figure out how they can produce anything consistently. I don't see it. Their wide receivers, they're fine. I mean, Bo Melton is fine, but he's not the kind of player to take over a game. He's kind of more of a, I guess, Roy Roundtree sort of a comp. I don't see how. I mean, last year
that is some Roy Roundtree slander right there, man.
I mean, no disrespect to our good friend Roy Roundtree.
Roy took over some games, though. Ask Northwestern whether Roy Roundtree can take over. Yeah,
that's true. But and Bo Melton is a good receiver, but I mean, he's not the kind who, I mean, you can just line up on your best corner and just have him, go off for 225 yards and 3 touchdowns. I mean, it's the Aaron Cruikshank is a smaller guy. Shameen Jones is a skinnier guy. I think he's a little bit taller than Cruikshank, but they don't have great receivers, and their line has been a mess for years. They don't have, and this was kind of the problem last year, and we kind of thought was going to be the problem this year. They don't have tackles. They have 6, 7, 8 guards. They do not have tackles. I think O'Neal's 6'4". The guy they're starting at right tackle, Bordner, he's 6'4".
Yeah, he plays guard when he's not at tackle. But the other guy's 6'8", but he's like a freshman and doesn't know what he's doing. And I think, Alex, you clipped him not starting on one, he just didn't realize the play had started and just oh wait, I got a block.
That clip was amazing because it's a full second after the ball has been hiked that he's still in his stance, his eyes are closed or something.
Once everybody else leaves, you got to go, man.
All right.
Yeah, they're okay on the interior. Left guard remains a bit of a mess, but the center is okay. The right guard, who was the right tackle last year, is okay, but I don't know how. And again, Pacheco is not the kind of back really to. I like the Michigan State comp, but he's not the kind of back to turn nothing or 1 yard into 30 yards. He's the kind that'll turn, a stuff at the line. He might grind out a couple more yards, but it is, I don't see how they consistently generate anything.
And he is a terrible, terrible pass protector. And I think that was another Michigan State comp, is that I remember some of the guys that they had back there would just not have any interest whatsoever in pass blocking. And they set protection sometimes to trust him to be on the blind side, which is, yeah.
Yeah, that was a theme in the Syracuse game. They really had trouble getting anybody besides an offensive lineman to attempt blocking, and if they did attempt, it didn't go very well. I mean, their backs didn't matter if it was Aaron Young or Pacheco, were not great in that. And then they had this guy, Matt Alamo, I believe is how you pronounce his name, number 10. Mm-hmm. He's their second string tight end, did not receive a pass attempt in this game, which presumably means he's a blocking tight end, but he's not really blocking shaped, and he was awful. I mean, I noted him in the notes I had as just downright terrible, and clipped at least one of them where he is responsible for a TFL or a sack. And so I don't know why your blocking tight end is your worst blocker. I don't know what's going on with that, but it was rough.
All right. So I don't think that we're that afraid of their offense, other than, the standard Michigan be afraid of everything, fear.
Well, and again, a lot of their game is traditionally getting it out just quick to the outside, to the edges. And if Dax Hill is going to play the same Jabril Peppers, you don't get to play the edge here. That's kind of, I'm sure we're going to talk about 2016, but that's where that game went off the rails, is once they realized you can't do the edges against this team. I don't see this could get ugly real quick.
Interesting. All right, so let's take a break and come back and talk about the side of the team that Chiano actually seems to do an okay job of. Want the perfect game day outfit? Underground Printing has unique, great-fitting U of M apparel and officially licensed apparel from legendary Michigan names like Woodson, Howard, Ufer, and more. UGP also specializes in custom printed apparel and promotional items for groups, events, and businesses. Whether you need one shirt as a gift or 1,000 shirts for a charity walk, Underground can customize almost anything for groups large or small. To learn more, visit Underground Printing in one of our 3 convenient locations around Ann Arbor or online at undergroundshirts.com.
It's painless. It's online. It's group ordering made easy for your next custom printed apparel order. Pogo from Underground Printing will save you time and hassle, whether you're selling shirts for a fundraiser, organizing a large event, or trying to collect sizes and payment for a family reunion. UGP is here to help. Save time and hassle every step of the way with our easy-to-use site. No more guessing what to order, chasing down people to pay, or wasting time trying to sort out the order. We'll set it up and you can just sit back and relax. We can even take care of individual shipping. To learn more about Pogo, visit us at any of our convenient locations or at pogo.undergroundshirts.com.
This is Matt Demrest, the owner of Homeshore Lending. We're a local mortgage company here to help you purchase with confidence and refinance with ease. People don't get mortgages very often, so it can be confusing. We'll break down every single line item so that it all makes sense. And at the end of the day, if we're not giving you the best deal, we'll tell you to go with the other company. We're here to offer our simple mortgage guidance.
This is Seth Fisher from MGoBlog. Over the years, we've sent dozens of readers to use Homeshore Lending, and every review that's come back has been raving. I myself used them to refinance after doing our original loan through our bank. I was amazed how much smoother the process was for our complicated loan. Bryan used them, you should use them too.
Finding out whether it makes sense or not to refinance or getting pre-approved to buy a new home is easy. Head over to homeshorelending.com, that's HOMESURE, lending.com/MGoBlog to find out more. Or call us at 734-531-9950. That's 734-531-9950. I've got 2 of my favorite people here with me, kind of an annual tradition, Cooper and Colby. Cooper, how old are you?
11.
Colby, how about you?
9.
Can I get a Go Blue?
Go Blue!
NMLS number 11611358, Equal Housing Lender.
In southeastern Michigan, the yearly cost for a nursing home averages
approximately $100,000.
It doesn't have to, though. Reed McCarthy founded Ann Arbor Elder Law after handling a tricky situation for his own family. Years of experience later, his boutique firm works with clients across southeast Michigan, dealing with Medicaid planning, long-term care, and tax, disability, and family law, not to mention family dynamics. If you have a family member who may need that level of care, or if you're ready to start your own estate plan, Reed can give you a plan for the future. Visit AnnArborElderLaw.com or call 734-989-5800. 734-945-9693. That's 734-945-9693.
Hey, it's Nick Hopwood, founder and president at Peak Wealth Management. We have a lot in common. We both went to Michigan. We're both huge fans, but I'm concerned about how much time you're spending on Michigan football recruiting. This could be time spent with me poring over your cash flow and Roth conversion strategy. How are these Roth conversions going to get done with you spending all your time and energy on MGoBlog looking at the next 5-star recruits? Hey, all kidding aside, if you're addicted to MGoBlog and you want to outsource some of your financial planning to an expert, consider us. peakwm.com/MGoBlog. At Peak, we work with people in a variety of situations. Some of our clients are young professionals looking to optimize their savings and investments. For young people, time is the key. Some of our clients are super affluent trying to figure out when they can retire. Some are high net worth retirees looking for a second opinion on how their money's working for them. Get your second opinion at peakwm.com/MGoBlog.
Peak Wealth Management.
Retire with confidence.
I got a straw hat and a $20 bill. I got a straw hat and a $20 bill.
Welcome back to MGoRadio 7.3. I'm Seth Fisher with Bryan, MacKenzie, and Alex Drain. We are on to the defense of Rutgers, which is not terrible, and Greg Schiano's forte, and I'm going to hear all about how they are just ready to dominate our... sorry, guys. I went as long as I could.
I was getting a little bit concerned there.
So I've been following Steve Polity ever since the war on Rutgers, and we will get to the war on Rutgers in this episode. Trust me. And he's been very positive about it. And he's like, Michigan's run offense has just been mowing down bad competition. They have not faced a defensive line like Rutgers. Like, we have not seen Mike Tverdov yet. So tell me about this defensive line of Rutgers that is going to reset everyone's expectations for Michigan's running game.
Well, they're doing a lot of the same things as last year. They still have their nose tackle, Julius Turner, still doing his slanted inward thing.
Ear holding the center, basically?
Yeah, that sort of facilitates their stunts. And that's kind of what they do. They rush for on most standard down plays with at least one stunt thrown in. They have two ends. One is like a traditional anchor type end, and the other one is the jack, who is the hybrid linebacker defensive end. And he a lot of times will loop inside where the hole has been opened by Turner mucking things up. They have got two guys at that jack position. Onyeki, however pronounce his name, is the pass rusher, and Mohamed Toure can drop into coverage a little bit, but is also a pass rusher. Tverdov on the other side plays most downs. Julius Turner will play most downs, and then they're rotating the true defensive tackle, the 3-tech. They miss Michael Dwumfor there because they like that guy to get into the backfield, and that was one thing a healthy Dwumfor always had. So they've got two players rotating, one of which I believe was a Temple transfer. Both guys had some decent plays in the game I saw, but nothing consistently. And they really need that to get home, their rush from the 4-man, because the linebackers have a lot of responsibilities in cleaning up run defense, and they play quarters. And so there's free yards underneath that they have to mitigate by getting home on the quarterback, and that they were able to do that against Syracuse. And they had some success at that last year with Michigan too, to some extent. Obviously a much more inexperienced and injured offensive line for Michigan last year than this year.
Yeah, I like in the strategy last year. I did a neck Sharpies after the game, and I liked it to like Hannibal with the Battle of Cannae, where you kind of retreat in the middle and then pull your sides around, and like that you don't realize that you think you're winning because I got this nose tackle knocked down, and like they're going to let me move their defensive ends, and then they swing around with their linebackers on the sides, and then all of a sudden you're just swallowed. And like there were a couple ways that Michigan was able to attack that last year. Figure this year we're going to have a little bit better plan than last year. I mean, every Michigan person can appreciate a good Kane, but I imagine that like if they're using the same strategy that we've kind of figured it out by now.
Yeah, and I mean, it's just a matter of picking up those stunts when they come, and Michigan's been really sharp at that this season. I mean, that was one of the themes of the podcast on Sunday that you and Bryan did, was that Michigan's offensive line is not making many, if any, mistakes, which I assume we'll talk about in the NIU section. But if they can pick those up, they should be in a good spot. The linebackers, against Syracuse, they were mostly playing with 2 traditional linebackers, but we expect there will be 3 against Michigan because Michigan likes their tight ends. Olakunle Fatukasi is
there it is.
Is the one to know.
Some of us waiting for the entire podcast to have you just pronounce that. Say it again. Say it again. Say it again.
Olakunle Fatukasi.
There it is.
Yeah. He's the tackling machine, and then they rotate in the middle of the linebacker spot between Tyreek Maddox-Williams and Tyshawn Fogg. And then against Michigan, there will probably be a third traditional linebacker who very well may be our old friend Drew Singleton.
Wow,
he didn't
still
feature
around.
much. Didn't feature much against Syracuse, but Syracuse plays with a lot of wide receivers, so Rutgers tended to do 4-2-5 to approach that. And then in the running game, they need to find a way to get a few design runs to scheme to take out the linebackers, because the linebackers are in charge of the edge, because the jack and the defensive end may stunt inside. No one's really watching the edge. If you can seal off the edge, you've got a lot of green grass in front of you. So that's kind of the key is schematically finding a way to get a solid block on Fatukasi or on Singleton or whoever.
And you didn't like Fatukasi that much, right?
Didn't get to do as much, I guess.
Okay. They weren't really. Yeah, I imagine the spread team would not be attacking him as much. It was interesting, though, that, you told me to put them in a nickel instead of going, even though Michigan loves to run their tight ends out there, because their nickel is out for paintball gunning.
So, yeah, that's the story of the secondary, is that they have 3 corners that they like to play a lot, and one of them is now not available. That's Max Melton, Bo Melton's brother. We don't really know what happened with that. We were told a paintball gun incident was the reason for, and it also knocked out Chris Long, who's not a player who plays very much, but is also a cornerback. So technically they're down 2 on the depth chart, although the Long suspension probably would not have made any difference.
Right. Well, we looked at Pro Football Focus to see how much these guys were playing, and I think you pointed out that the 3 of them, the 3 cornerbacks that they want to play, each had 150 snaps, and the next guy had 5. So they really don't want to go down to cornerback number 3. And you didn't even like Trey Avery, who's been around forever. I think the guy's a 6-year senior now.
He played at Ohio State, if I remember correctly, before transferring to Rutgers. Not great. Didn't see particularly great things from him. I do like their safeties, Avery Young and Christian Eisen.
Who's their old cornerback? He was been in their rotation. God, these guys are aged.
Yeah.
Yeah, Fogg has been there for 7 or 8 years. Some of these guys have been there a long time. It's an experienced defense.
Oh my, yeah. There's only one guy. They're all at least 4th-year players, and there's I think 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 5 guys who are 6 years who are in their major rotation. Wow.
Yeah, and one thing to keep in mind too, this is a defense that I think Shiano kind of knows what they are and what they're not, and that they're not going to be able to just stop you down after down. They really are a boom or bust defense. I think they lead the conference in tackles for loss per game. I think they led the conference last year in tackles for loss per game, but they also get hit for a bunch of big stuff. And I think that kind of the stunt defense might have something to do with that. And it feels like Michigan's current running game is a little better equipped to take advantage of some of that and pop some big gains. And there you might see, on a counter, a lineman coming around with no one to block just because things have completely imploded on them.
So yeah, and one other note too is the way Rutgers plays in their secondary, they're going to concede yards underneath. And one of the issues Michigan had in the first half of last season's game when they were down 17-0 is they did not have a quarterback who could regularly make easy open passes underneath. And then in the second half, they got a quarterback who could make easy open passes underneath. And suddenly the offense started moving because, there were those plays available for Syracuse. Syracuse only took some of them and eventually started taking them when they needed 30-yard plays, which was particularly humiliating, and got an ACC network broadcaster to basically just start shredding the Syracuse coaching staff. So,
optimism was so high when Dino Babers came in, and then I don't know what happened, but man.
Dino Babers is he was like the RPO guy. And I think the people just kind of adjusted to RPOs, and okay, now everyone knows how to run race car. Everyone knows how to do the 3 RPOs that they used to run, and he just didn't adapt. That's my take on Syracuse, at least. They never had a defense.
Syracuse again was not good. They couldn't pick up any of Rutgers' stunts, which hurt them. Their quarterback wasn't hitting any of the deep shots over the middle. They fell into a hole because they kept turning it over. There was one play I clipped where the quarterback fumbles the snap and then tries to shovel it out of bounds as he's doing a belly flop, which kind of just summed up their day. And then they got in a position where they were down 10 points with 3 minutes to go and tried to take a 5-yard check down on 3rd and 10, needing 80 yards to go. So Syracuse just stopped trying. So points, I guess, to Schiano for beating them into submission so that they stopped trying. But, if Michigan can pick up the stunts and Cade hits the easy passes underneath and they have a couple nice design runs, get it going, get the lead, I don't think there should be a major issue. Michigan scored quite a bit once Cade McNamara was their quarterback last year.
Plus, if their pass rush is so important to them, when was the last time Michigan was in a predictable passing down? Have they done that 6 times this year? They're just, they're not going to be in a position to get creative and blitz and pin their ears back. And I think, Alex, you kind of pointed out, on standard downs, they're bringing 4 every time.
Yep, so 4 every time, and they need the stunt to get home. And if it doesn't, they're in trouble. So if they can get the line calls right, and they've been doing that so far this year, shouldn't be a problem.
All right. Well, I think that's enough Big East talk. Let's we're going to take a break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about all the wonderful things that have happened since Rutgers joined us here in the Big Ten East.
At Peak Wealth, we believe we can help you retire with confidence. It's Nick Hopwood, certified financial planner from
Peak Wealth Management
in Plymouth. I graduated from Michigan in 2001 with an econ degree and founded Peak Wealth Management in 2014. And now we have over $240 million of assets under management. As a freshman in 97, winning the national championship in football and hockey didn't get any better than that. Both my wife and I lived in Bursley that year, and it's crazy because we never actually met while living in the same dorm. Probably because she had a car and I had to ride the bus. But we named our dog Bursley anyway, and he's on the payroll here at Peak Wealth Management. At Peak, we're fee-based. We're your fiduciary, which means everything we recommend is always in your best interest. We partner with leading institutional money managers, focus on low fees, and make sure every client has a financial plan covering retirement, college, tax, estate, insurance, and cash flow. Simply put, we are
Peak Wealth Management,
your comprehensive financial coach. Book your second opinion at peakwm.com/mgoblog.
Peak Wealth Management.
Retire with confidence.
It can be a rough ride along the information superhighway. That's why we build our e-commerce websites tough enough to handle the load. With the capacity to take hundreds of simultaneous online transactions and the stability of load-balanced, co-located server architectures, a website from Human Element performs in the roughest conditions. Thousands of products? No problem. We'll throw in the tools to manage them with precision and efficiency. All with a design slick enough to make you think your girlfriend might be impressed. So load it up and hit the gas and let Human Element show you the way. Special offers available for returning lessees. Financing available with approved credit to qualified buyers. Client participation may affect savings. Optional equipment available at additional cost. See human-element.com for details.
Want the perfect game day outfit? Underground Printing has unique, great-fitting U of M apparel and officially licensed apparel from legendary Michigan names like Woodson, Howard, Ufer, and more. UGP also specializes in custom printed apparel and promotional items for groups, events, and businesses. Whether you need one shirt as a gift or 1,000 shirts for a charity walk, Underground can customize almost anything for groups large or small. To learn more, visit Underground Printing in one of our 3 convenient locations around Ann Arbor or online at undergroundshirts.com.
Here's a thing people say. Seth, tell me about your insurance.
I'm actually glad you asked me about that because I just changed my insurance, and I'm really happy I did.
Let me guess, you use Phil Klein and Owen Rosen of the Phil Klein Insurance Group.
They are MGO blog readers, and they don't advertise during football games.
And they've got a 5-star rating on anything you would care to see. Call Owen at 248-682-7445 or visit them online at philkleininsurance.com.
I pulled the sharpest knife from the block, and I went to work on my arm. I don't think I would feel anything, and I'm too blue to get that far.
Welcome back to MGoRadio 7.3. I'm Seth Fisher with Bryan MacKenzie, our Rutgers correspondent, and Alex Drain, who our Big East correspondent. We are going to go back to 2014, that glorious day when it was announced that the cable subscribers of New Jersey were going to be joining us in the Big Ten. Ever since then, we have been in so many more televisions and feeling it, and we wanted to go back and think about all the wonderful things that have been going into those televisions since Rutgers has joined us. And we opened it up to anything. It didn't have to be football. It didn't have to be basketball. It didn't have to be... Do they do any other sport? Okay, yeah. So they they do. They have they have a good something team. Anyway, this is great radio. Why don't we just go ahead and start it? This is our Gimmicky Top 5 Rutgers memories since they joined the Big Ten. Number 5, Alex.
Well, I'm going to get my side of the 78-0 game out of the way. You guys can delve into the juicy details later, but my memory of that game is always that it was the night of my senior year homecoming dance in high school, and like every 20 to 25 minutes, I would like step out of it was like in a barn, right? It was early October, it was in a barn. I'd step outside the barn to pull my phone out to see what the score was. Every 25 minutes, an extra like 14 to 21 points had been added on. And it was just like, oh God, like now it's up to 49-0. Now it's up to 60-0. And just every 25 minutes getting to see the carnage. Didn't need to watch the game to feel it that night. So that's my story of that game. Also, I will say this on behalf of people I knew who were at that game in the media. Rutgers media has great food. And they were served, I believe, prime rib that night, like on like a cart, like carving the prime rib.
Wow.
So, yeah.
All right, I may have to look into this in the future. No, see, my recollection of that. So that night, we were supposed to be going to a party for like my wife's friends, and I told her like, no, this is my job. This is what I do. I have to watch this game, and she didn't want to be in the room with me watching the game. So she would just call in every few minutes, like, how's the game going? Oh, we're winning.
Going well.
Going well. I mean, I couldn't stop watching, but if the minute she walked in and saw what the score would be, the whole jig would be up, right? She'd be like, okay.
You've seen it.
Was that your backup fullback? Okay. As soon as they handed the ball to the Jewish guy, we got to go. All right, Bryan, you're number 5.
All right, I'm going to get the recency bias out of the way, and I'm going to say paintball gun incident. So it's my concern recently with Shiano coming in is that Rutgers was not going to be good, but they were going to become boring. And that I mean, we don't need more Northwesterns in the conference. We need more Illinois and Nebraskas.
Right. Fun bad.
The fact that they're starting to get a little bit of a foothold in terms of just not being abysmal, and they lose one of their starting corners and another player to something they're just calling a paintball gun incident it makes me feel better that Rutgers will remain Rutgers even if they get a little bit better at football.
That is fair enough. My number 5 is Brandon Peters throwing a wheel route to Chris Evans. And every Michigan fan at the same time going, the Brandon Peters era has begun! This is going to happen now. Okay, we throw wheel routes. We use Chris Evans in the passing game. Brandon Peters, that pass was gorgeous. And that's just a very good memory against Rutgers that I have.
And where the camera angle was too. You could just, at least for those of us watching on TV, you could just kind of watching the ball dropping right in, and it was as if the skies had parted. So
that was my corner that happened. And I was in the stadium when that happened, and we knew. The second he was loose, we're like, oh, yes. Because
everything went perfectly after that.
The moment that a running back changes his route from the boring running back flat route to nope, he's going deep. Every fan knows that the wheel route is always successful, and that guy and the Rutgers cornerback just had no concept of you scouted Michigan. You would not think they would throw to Chris Evans. It was a great moment. The other moment for that game, I hope is on someone else's list because it didn't make mine. But number 4, Alex.
Going to basketball here. You might remember when the Big Ten did the tourney for the Big Ten tournament at Madison Square Garden, and Rutgers, I believe, was the 11 or 12 seed, and then ripped off a couple wins. And they played one of the higher seeds. I think it was Purdue on a Friday night, and the crowd was just going wild when Rutgers was making that game competitive.
I do like Rutgers basketball fans. They are legit people.
That was one of the more hype moments of that season for just Big Ten basketball in general. Rutgers was relevant. They were in the home crowd. And that team will always live in my heart for that brief moment in time that they made things interesting at a location that the Big Ten should not have been hosting their tournament. Keep it in the Midwest, but if you got to put it in New York, make sure the Rutgers fans show up.
Oh, see, I think that's fine. I love playing in the Garden. We have a lot of Michigan fans in New York, so Michigan fills that just as well as Rutgers does.
That is true. It is close to a home game for Michigan. Yeah. Unless they're facing the rowdy Rutgers fans.
Bryan, you're number 4.
My number 4 is also basketball related. It is from January of this year when Rutgers defeated Michigan State 67-37. And what people forget about that game is Michigan State scored 37 points in the entire game. 37. 0.57 points per possession. I think Rutgers was up 15-0 in that game. It has no bearing on my life whatsoever, but I really, really enjoyed that.
Did Michigan State's football team score more on Rutgers than their basketball team that year? That is a stat that we should know, because that's got to be some kind of Rutger, right?
Well, 2021 is when the next time Rutgers and Michigan State faced off. Rutgers football defeated Michigan State in the season opener. No, wait a minute. No, never mind. That was before. That was
last year. Last year is when Rutgers won, and then and we were all laughing. Ha ha.
Yeah, it was so funny for about 7 days.
It was a really fun week. It was a really fun. There was Dr. Fanson. That's the Michigan State memories. We can leave those there. I'm going to go to my number 4, which is Amara Darboh catching the ball, taking 2 steps in bounds with it, and then having it called out of bounds, thus losing to Rutgers, thus getting Brady Hoke fired, thus starting the engines to get Jim Harbaugh. Because if it had not happened that week, that's the week before the Penn State game, right? When that wins he wins Rutgers, wins Penn State, Michigan's bowl eligible. Does Michigan fire everybody beforehand? Because that was kind of the catalyst right there. So I'm a Jim Harbaugh fan. I was very happy that Jim Harbaugh was hired when he was. I'm not sure that could have gone down if it had started at any other time. And I know for a fact that it started then because it's in Bacon's book. And losing to Rutgers maybe saved Michigan football. So thank you,
even if they win that game, giving up 400 passing yards to Gary Nova, I think, is by definition a fireable offense.
Well, to us, but we'd already been... were you like, after that Notre Dame 31-0 game when the entire team gave up, I was kind of on the fence about Brady Hoke. But now that he gave up 400 yards to Gary, I came in like a wrecking ball Nova. I have kind of changed. No, there were minds that needed to be convinced 100% because Brady Hoke was a popular guy among certain minds. And losing to Rutgers was one of those things where like, nope, we're done. That kind of eroded that. And then we were all drinking and cheering Jim Harbaugh, and everything was nice after that. We threw a pass to Chris Evans, and the Brandon Peters era began, and everything that I think was fine after that, right? Yeah.
Yep,
yeah.
exactly.
Okay, all right. Alex, number 3.
Sticking with another new sport to talk about that we haven't talked about previously, but the only home run I ever saw in my 4 years at Michigan hit from Alumni Field that landed in Ray Fisher Stadium across the way was a Terra Blanco home run against Rutgers in April of 2018 rather. It ended the game on a run rule, 11-1. So a walk-off home run in the bottom of the 5th in a game Michigan was already up 8-1, I believe, at that time. And,
were you calling this game?
Yeah, I was. Yep. And she hit it to dead center, past the fence, past the other fence, and into the outfield of Ray Fisher Stadium. So thank you to Rutgers for giving me that memory.
All right. Bryan, I need your number 3.
Well, in 2018, some people who will remain nameless invested quite a bit in the concept of Rutgers as potentially being bowl eligible. And in the 3rd game of the year, they lost to Kansas, 55-14.
And who was the coach of Kansas at this point?
Was that still David Beatty? I don't even know. Was that?
Wait. It was.
I don't know.
I was hoping it was still Charlie, but
I think this was after Charlie Weiss. But it is. I mean, but again, it's 2018 Kansas, which is anything after 2012 Kansas. They're among the worst teams. They gave up 400 rushing yards to Kansas. And those of us who may have started a what was supposed to be a season-long meme about making the Quick Lane Bowl, yeah, they wrecked that in week 3. Opponent Watch does not feature large blocks of all caps text very often, but that broke me. That broke me.
It had a great Paco Bell reference too. I mean, it was a cannon in the D. It was beautiful.
Yeah. Oh, it was perfect. It had everything set up. You know, they had a very soft early season schedule. They had, I think, Texas State and Kansas and Buffalo. They went on to lose to Buffalo. I don't think they won another game that entire season. I think they finished 1-11.
And for those at home who don't know, what's the cannon? What is the significance of the cannon?
The cannon, which I think we will also discuss in context of a future number, is they have Rutgers has, I think, 3 gentlemen in Revolutionary War apparel, attire, and what looks to be about a Revolutionary War era cannon. And when they score points, I think it's when they score touchdowns, but it might be when they kick field goals. I don't know. They set off the cannon in celebration, and so that is the Rutgers cannon. It does not go off very often anymore.
Yeah, they have one of the cooler rivalry things that I think in the world. Maybe the coolest rivalry fight going on with Princeton over their cannons. Because I think like there was one cannon that was left over from the Battle of Trenton, like the Battle of New Jersey when Washington fought the Britons there, and each school claims ownership of this cannon. So the students would just steal it back from each other. And this goes way back to they would have to get like horse and buggies and stick that on there and then transport the cannon. So finally, Princeton, I think, decided to just cement this thing all the way into the ground. There's only like a few feet hanging left of the cannon. Everything else just cemented into the ground. And all right, come and get it now. And so Rutgers fans now just go over and paint it. Anyway, I wanted the cannon to be set up because my number 3 is they fired the cannon during 78-0. We got them to do. So Michigan fans are sitting back there going, "Fire the cannon!" Fire! Right? Like we want cannon. Michigan fans were this is the only thing that we had not gotten in our 78-0 destruction, and there was no chance that the Rutgers offense was going to make the cannon happen. So our only thought at that point was, and I'm speaking for the fans who were there, was, can we get the fans to get these guys to light the cannon off just for us, right? We're all come here, but that's the last piece we want to see. And then Spate found a way. He skipped past the ball. It looked like it was plausible an interception.
That was Shane Morris.
Oh, Shane Morris, of course. Okay, so Morris, yeah, I even had that written.
Well, and it was a ridiculous, like, it looked like it just deflected right off of a foot and popped up in the air and got returned.
Right, but as soon as they showed the replay, everyone knew that it was going to be overturned. But we still got the cannon because they returned it. And like a Michigan guys, I think, partied. They're like, okay, go, do it. Yes! So
you can take the points off the board, but you cannot unfire the cannon, and that's the important thing.
That's right. And I also just shout out another from that game, because I figure we're not going to get to it, is the Rutgers fans being so happy when they got their first down.
It was a genuinely touching moment when you saw the fans hugging midway through the fourth quarter when they picked up their first
and Michigan
down.
fans and Rutgers, like, Michigan fans were happy for them too. Like, we were all like, yes, okay, you guys did it. Like, we didn't want that part in it. We wanted them to have something happy to take away. Speaking of things happy to take away, Alex, your number 3. Number two.
Two, yeah. Well, it's not that often you get the privilege of firing a head coach, and if Rutgers got to fire Brady Hoke, then we got to fire Chris Ash back in 2019. Michigan beat Rutgers 52-0 at the Big House. It was nice in part because Michigan had just been handled by Wisconsin a week earlier, so it kind of got that out of the system. And then Chris Ash was fired the next day. So firing a head coach is always fun. So that's my number 2.
And he was
I'm sure you like that, but for those of us who depend a little bit more on the Schadenfreude for content purposes, I wouldn't have minded if they'd held off a little bit longer. But yeah, that was not the kind of Michigan team you can lose to 52-0 and just. Yeah, at least at that moment. I mean, that was. I forget if that was right before or right after the 10-7 Iowa, or 10 to 10-7 or 10-3.
Right before the 10-3 Iowa game. Yeah.
That was a challenging point for Michigan. So that was bad. But we did get the brief Nunzio Campanelli era. So that was fun.
Yeah. Which is weird, because Campanelli's brother was like one of the people who were really mad at Michigan for having their satellite camps. We'll get to that in a bit. But like, it was weird that all of a sudden Anthony was just like, no, I'm going to come work for Michigan. All right, you're number 2, Bryan.
Back to 2015. Michigan was up by, I think, 22 points late in the first half. Rutgers returns a punt into Michigan territory. I think it was Janarian Grant returns a punt into Michigan territory, and they kick a field goal. And according to Harbaugh and some of the players, they cut the lead to 19 points. To be clear, they were apparently talking a bunch of trash in the tunnel at halftime about the fact that they were coming back because they had cut the lead to 19.
Because they cut the point. Right? Because now we're down by 3 scores as opposed to
3 scores before. Yeah. And so when Michigan came out, they scored a touchdown on the first drive, and Harbaugh went for 2 to put him up 27. They asked him about it after the game. He said, "Well, card says go for 2, so I went for 2." But it's according to the players, it may have been a little bit less about the card than that. I mean, the whole Rutgers football experience is one big long case of what are you going to do, stab me,
right?
And this was like the quintessential okay, but yeah.
Didn't we score that with Jabril Peppers as well?
What's that?
Wasn't that the one we scored with Jabril Peppers too? So it wasn't just like we're poking you, it's like we're going to hit you with a defensive back as well. Like you're going on the Heisman reel.
I don't think so. I could be wrong.
I remember we scored with Peppers in that game, and I remember that one feeling the most mean of all the scores in that game. The other thing from that game was wasn't that when Harbaugh got the intent to deceive penalty? I think was...
because that was at the end. That was at the. I don't think that was against Rutgers.
Okay, all right. I'm checking that one. I remember that one as I remember being there and like trying to everyone on their phones trying to get service. Like, what the hell's the rule? What is this? All right, we'll just move on. My number 2 is the one and done. So this is a basketball memory, and I don't know if you guys remember this at all. It's January 27th, 2016. the end of a terrible night. I was at this game. Michigan was just like shooting terribly. I think we were down at the half. Mark Donnell actually was the one who brought us back in this game. But now it's like at the end, and this is like Jim Jordan's like worst KenPom team in like the history of the Big Ten. Michigan's already up 65-57. There's only a minute left in the game. Zach Irvin is shooting a 1-and-1. And does anyone remember what happens next?
I do not remember this game.
He shoots the 1-and-1 and misses it, and it falls right to their center, Greg Lewis, who like forgets it's a 1-and-1 and like tries to hand it to the ref, and the ref is just standing there. And so then he's like, here, and then like rolls the ball to the ref. And Irvin is like, knows what's going on, so like as soon as the ball is gone, like Irvin's like running after it, but he can't beat the thing out of bounds. The ref just kind of like moves aside, lets it go. And then like I remember being there, and like right in front of us was Duncan Robinson, like losing it, but trying not to get like laugh so hard that he ruined it. Like he knew what was going on the whole time, and he's just sitting there like hands in his face, like trying not to just he's just freaking dying. So turnover, Michigan got the ball back. That's just a very that was the quintessential Jim Jordan Rutgers team, and the quintessential Jim Jordan Rutgers moment, I thought, for that era when all they did was bring down everybody's RPIs.
Yeah, the Steve Peichel era has people forgetting how bad they were, and oh man, they were bad. Just and not even like fun bad, just awful at everything.
Oh, this team did not win. They had like their own Gopher Quest, because they did not. They beat like a couple teams in like the 300s in KenPom, and then like they did not win a single Big Ten game until the last night of the Big Ten. They beat Minnesota to avoid going winless, and it was like Minnesota wasn't a very good team, but they'd already beaten them by 20 points earlier in that season, and that was like a standard score that year.
And I think Minnesota had a couple guys hurt. I remember watching. It was an early Sickos game. It was bad. I'm looking at Rutgers finished 279th in KenPom.
Oof.
279.
Ooh. Yeah. So that was that team, but I got that wonderful little memory from it. All right, Alex, you're number one.
All right, my number one is more of a collection of memories, and I want to be nice to Rutgers. One thing I will say about Rutgers, they always have had a very well-funded student radio operation. They were one of the rare schools to send student radio for basketball on the road that's like far away too. Like maybe Michigan State would send somebody on the road, or maybe Purdue if it's drivable, but they would send people on flights from far away to call Rutgers sports for student radio purposes. And the people were always nice. They'd show up in suits, and they'd always have this look on their face like, yeah, we know we're doing this, and we don't really know why, but they were a well-funded operation, always very kind. I don't imagine I would have wanted to fly around the country calling Rutgers athletics. I feel like it would be a pretty draining and soul-crushing experience if you were actually cheering for Rutgers, especially calling their football games. But I hope that their student radio has enjoyed the Peichel Renaissance, because they put in a lot of hours riding planes to see really bad sports. So shout out Rutgers student radio.
Very nice. All right, Bryan, what's your number one?
I mean, it has to be 78-0. I mean, just the whole experience. I tried to narrow it down to a specific point or specific moment or specific stat, but the whole thing, it was coming off of the summer of 2016 where the Chris Ash era was going to be, Rutgers was rising and Fence the Garden and all, in the satellite camp kerfuffle and the whole thing. And then, just walking in and watching the first couple of offensive series for Rutgers and just realizing, oh, this is going to be so bad. This is the closest thing I can think of is the IMG game against Bishop
Sycamore.
Bishop Sycamore. I mean, you're watching these teams and thinking, how are these two teams playing each other? Michigan finished with 600 yards of offense. Rutgers finished with 39 yards of offense, including 5 yards passing on 18 attempts. the Bobby Henderson fullback trap when I think it was 63-0. I could be, or 64, something like that.
Right.
They run Bobby, the backup fullback on a beautiful trap, and he's switching arms in the middle of the field, as he busts into the end zone. I have rarely seen something, a game that felt like that. And that was the team that finished. They lost 224-0 to the four Big East or Big Ten East teams, the Michigan,
right.
Michigan State, Ohio State, and Penn State. 224-0 in those four games.
So mine is the prelude. My number one is the prelude to that. That is when the elite student leaders from the Order of Bull's Blood let Harbaugh know his satellite camp is not welcome here. If you guys remember this, so Harbaugh is putting in satellite camps all over the place. He plans one in New Jersey with Paramus, right? And a lot of the other high school coaches are mad, like big mad, that he's having this here. So Chris Ash has plans his own with Ohio State, which even makes it the high school parents even madder because we already signed up for the Michigan one and we can't do both the same day. But then the greatest response was the Order of Bull's Blood, the secret society of Rutgers fans who left a note that was an acrostic, and I want to read it. Now, the acrostic, we cannot actually say the words, but I will emphasize those words, and you can kind of figure out what they say. Good God, Mr. Harbaugh, on behalf of Rutgers University, 4 reasons we feel are needed to be expressed. Go home. Upon return, ponder your reasoning begin here. We all know why. Pipeline. Cause you are poaching New Jersey's brightest stars. I'm trying to read their broken English, but they're not. Yeah. Cause you are poaching New Jersey's brightest stars. Knights are meant to fight in battle, and you have declared war. You are stealing our sons and daughters. A speech is one thing, but capitalized football is another. Our record in the Big Ten is nothing impressive. We are a growing program, but why are you picking on David? Unless you're scared that you have awakened, quote, the sleeping giant, end quote. Right now, as you read this letter, understand that we are united as a people and ready to battle. Excuse me. Save yourself before Rutgers football, also capitalized, arises with help from their powerful ally, the Ohio State University. Eventually, Michigan will die. You will being to fade into the folklore of what was college football, capitalized. Losing will become a tradition for the Wolverines. Fence the garden with love. The 2016-17 class, the Order of Bull's Blood, Rutgers University. And then they left us a teddy bear and a bunch of magnets.
Yeah, it was a teddy bear, a bunch of magnets. I think the teddy bear was on top of an upside down plastic party platter tray.
Yeah, or like a cake belonged to it at one point or something. Yeah. Well, yeah, that's his throne. That's where the Order of Bull's Blood Great Bear sits. The Great Bear is the king of the Order of Bull's Blood, and then the magnets are his minions, I believe.
That brief period of time when you were getting articles about a Rutgers dynasty. Rutgers had I think that was the same summer where Rutgers had a really big recruiting class early.
Right.
And so they were ranked, they were top 25 in the rankings, but their average star ranking was real low. But, NJ.com, I think it was Politi was probably the one that was writing it, but it was, the story about, the secret to Rutgers recruiting success. And again, they thought Ohio State was going to, back them up on this, and together they were going to take Michigan down. It was a very bizarre song.
Yeah. I don't understand why they thought Ohio State was going to be in their corner. I guess because Schiano was there, and Schiano is the great savior of Rutgers football. So there was that was the plan. Anyway, congrats Rutgers on your recent dominance of Michigan via your teammate Ohio State. We're going to take a break and come back and talk about the NIU game.
The only thing we can be sure of about the future is that it will be absolutely fantastic. I'm thinking of the incredible breakthrough made possible by developments in communications.
Arthur C. Clarke's 1964 vision is now reality with SignalWire, a cloud platform that enables developers to build the applications that will reshape the future of communications.
These things will make possible a world in which we can be in instant contact with each other wherever we may be.
You can add cutting-edge, real-time video and audio to any product, website, or application with APIs and SDKs for developers of all skill sets. SignalWire is optimized for high-quality and low-latency communication functionality for video, voice, and text messaging capabilities.
Almost any skill could be made independent of distance. Men will no longer commute. They will communicate.
See for yourself at signalwire.com. Use code 2021 and receive $25 in developer credit. Go to signalwire.com.
SignalWire Communications OGs, original geeks of programmable communication.
During these challenging times, it is important to have a Michigan man in your corner. If you or someone in your life has questions, concerns, or just want to discuss your legal rights, give attorney Jonathan Paul a call at 248-924-9458 or visit his website, michiganlawgrad.com. John asks you all to be safe. We're going to get through this together, and as always, go blue. It's painless. It's online. It's group ordering made easy for your next custom printed apparel order. Pogo from Underground Printing will save you time and hassle. Whether you're selling shirts for a fundraiser, organizing a large event, trying to collect sizes and payments for a family reunion, or, ordering a whole bunch of shirts with your Kickstarter, Underground Printing is here to help. Save time and hassle every step of the way with their easy-to-use site. No more guessing what to order, chasing people down to pay, wasting time trying to sort out the order. They'll set it up, you can just sit back and relax. They'll even take care of individual shipping. To learn more about Pogo, visit them at any of their convenient locations or at pogo.undergroundshirts.com. If you want to see where our post-game podcast happens, or if you need a spot to land in Ann Arbor, check out 4M, Prentice Partners' beautiful brand new flagship property at 830 Henry Street in Lower Burns Park and across the bridge from the Big House. Their 11 spacious 6-bedroom, 6-bath suites feature state-of-the-art digital capabilities and are laid out for comfortable, efficient collaboration. You can also rent a 4M unit for shorter stays, say if you want to come to town for a football weekend. I want to add myself that they're also taking over Lucky's. We're really excited about their plans for that space. So if you're by the stadium, swing by 830 Henry or visit Prentice4M.com.
I put the books in a box just as quick as I can, and I hope she doesn't see it. No.
Welcome back to MGoRadio 7.3. 7.3. Yeah, it's hard to remember when you're in the welcome back phase. I want to mention we are doing this from SignalWire. I hope you all caught the ad. That was fantastic. SignalWire is real-time video technology that allows you to create interactive video experiences, not just for podcasts. They've been holding town hall meetings. They've been using it for fully interactive video concerts, virtual concerts. SignalWire was started by the original geeks of software-defined telecom technology. They're Michigan fans. They'll be the ones personally supporting you. Try it today at signalwire.com and use the code MUPPETS for $25 in developer credit. So, I also want to shout out, that was Terry Klein from Austin, Texas, whose music was provided today. If your band would like to be featured on here, his song Too Blue, to get that far, I highly recommend. I'm going to link it on the thing. So, I'm just putting off talking about NIU because I don't really have a whole lot to talk about for the NIU game. Like, I did the UFRs. Like, I saw the games. Like, I put them down on charts and everything. But, I mean, do you guys have any questions? Q&A open for NIU things that we learned?
I guess a lot of people might be wondering about the one good drive.
Oh, yeah, the drive. The drive. Yeah, I mean, I think that our initial belief that was well scripted was correct. That like they were switching guys to the other side real quick and then snapping the ball, kind of messing with Michigan's alignment because Michigan would quickly have to shift their side and then react to that, and then in the process, a couple of the Michigan guys just kind of forgot to do things like. The fact that it's not like quarterback might keep the ball like didn't occur to Jalen Harrell one time. And then they had like a really good play action at the beginning where everyone on Michigan sucked up because no one thought they were gonna pass it. And then, as soon as they ran out of those ideas, as soon as Michigan kind of adjusted to that, I thought it was pretty much turned off. But none of it involved really moving guys. It was the only concern I had the whole time was that if Michigan's defensive tackles weren't really set, they found that they could move them a little bit, and it took a little time, especially with Jeter, to kind of like get down. And like Jeter just, someone said in the comments, like the guy just likes to pop back up. Like some people just do not want to be with their back bent all the way down and trying to get low. And when he wasn't set, it was really hard for him to get low, and they would be able to get some movement on him. And that was kind of contributed to the defensive tackles. So that was that drive. They had a drive. Yeah.
Well, speaking of the linemen, we saw him flip the line completely a couple of times. I don't remember seeing that a lot in recent years. Is that a McDonald thing or is that a scheme thing? What's the thinking there?
I think they're just matching up. Like they want to have this game at least. They wanted Aiden Hutchinson coming off the tight end side, and they've been using him differently every single game. But I think that they identified that really the only way that they were going to get beat at all would be if they broke out the front side with like a long run, and like they were going to put a whole lot of tight ends on the same side. They were going to create a lot of gaps on the front side. NIU was, and if Michigan could keep Aiden Hutchinson on that side, he could just crush it, right? Like there'd be no room between all those gaps to run. And then NIU was trying to do the opposite. They were just trying to get the hell away from Aiden Hutchinson. So, they switch.
Which I understand. Switches. That's probably not the worst idea.
Yeah, they switch. He switches back. Like on the 4th and 1, the ironic thing is like they did all that switching, right? And you could see they were trying to find a formation in there where they could snap it where they were not running at Aiden Hutchinson. And then they called timeout, and everyone's like, okay, they're going to punt. No, they come back, and they ran a dive right at Aiden Hutchinson. They doubled him, and it worked. He just, he's not a defensive tackle. He can play it sometimes, but, if you double team him, that's kind of how it goes. I was fairly impressed. Like, Alex, you were kind of correct about their offensive line. Like, I didn't see anyone there who was bad. They didn't also pass block, so maybe that's just a thing that NIU can't do.
Yeah, who do you like the most at the sort of defensive end linebacker spot outside of Hutchinson? Because we're seeing a lot of guys rotating in with Ojabo and Harrell and Braden McGregor some. What's your assessment there?
I mean, this game was another one where like they were just running them all out there, and like you got like 5 things for each guy. I think that the highest upside might be Harrell. He seems to be the guy who can be the most linebacker and defensive end, and kind of like he can get drop in coverage, and he has the athleticism to stay with a running back. He seems to be a pretty decent pass rusher, and like he gets into the backfield. He's more kind of like the jack of all trades for all these guys, and everyone else just seems to be really stuck in one role. Like Ojabo can pass rush. Can he drop into coverage? No. Is he a really good run defender? Not at this point, right? He's still just way too raw. He's got the most upside of everybody. Braden McGregor is kind of just like a mini Ojabo. Or a mini Aiden Hutchinson, really. Like but he's got to get there. Like there are a lot of moments where you're just like, okay, give him another 40 pounds in 2 years, and like you could really see something. And then like Morris,
this is really his first year, though. I mean, with that knee injury, it feels like he's basically a freshman right now.
Yeah, and that's exactly it. He looks like a true freshman that could contribute down the line, and I like that he's getting in because that shows that they see it too. Which when I have an injury like that, you're kind of concerned. What's the future going to be?
Yeah, the fact that he's on the field at all, I mean, that's
right.
His leg still works, and that's a really good sign.
Right, and speaking of guys who are on the field at all, Chris Jenkins was on the field a lot in this game. He started, I think, and he was like one of their main tackles, and more or less held up. Like I was afraid that he would get pushed around with doubles and stuff like that, and once or twice it happened to him, but he I mean, seems like he belongs in that rotation. Might have already passed Jeter, and that was another guy that we thought, like, they brought him in at 240 pounds, and right, we were like, okay, call me in 2022. So the fact that we're seeing him right now, I think, speaks a lot to his future. And then Mike Morris we didn't even mention yet, and Morris is kind of like the guy who can come in, play tackle, or to play end. If they're doing a lot of the 4-2-5, like, he can be an anchor kind of style end. You can really tell that he was Don Brown's next anchor, and he probably would have been the guy. And then in this defense, he's actually valuable because he can play two roles, even though he's not perfect for either one of them.
Was it possible to learn anything about the secondary or no?
Not really. I mean, every time we they didn't pass, right? Like, was anyone else surprised that Rocky Lombardi comes into Michigan Stadium and he's just like, no, staying behind the line of scrimmage. I don't need to go downfield.
How long do you think they had, though? They thought they had to drop back.
But it shouldn't matter. How long did Michigan State give them, right? Like, Michigan State's passes were like 1-2 quiddy pay,
step drop,
1 right, 1 Aiden quiddy. They were getting mauled on the offensive line, and it didn't take that much to throw an inaccurate fade. It was just those passes don't take much to put up. The problem is the cornerback should have just as much of a chance of getting them as the receiver. So if you're doing that, you really have to feel like you're going to win that battle. And they have they had one receiver on this team, so I thought they would at least try it once. But every time they did show the cornerbacks, they were in phase. There was never a moment when they weren't. I did think that Vincent Gray is absolutely ahead of DJ Turner. Turner was doing that thing that Ohio State keeps on messing up, where the receiver tries to crack a safety, and the cornerback just has to replace him, right? The safety's going to get a receiver on him, then that means you're the new edge block, you're the new safety. And that just did not occur to Turner a couple times on I think it was on the drive, or maybe the drive right afterwards. And that was the only other plays that NIU got anything against Michigan's cornerbacks. So yeah, they weren't tested at all, right? Yeah.
How do we feel about Cade McNamara now after 3 weeks? Was this the rebound you wanted to see after Washington?
I gave him 100%, which not a lot of throws, but Bryan and I went back and forth on the long pass to Cornelius Johnson, and we kind of thought maybe Johnson slowed up a little bit, and then the second one he hit him, and did allow him to slow up and get it. So, his other deep ball was on the quarterback's on the receiver's hands. I thought he could have thrown it a little bit further inside, but I get why he was trying not to give that safety a chance to get involved. So there's 3 long passes that were all catchable in their own way, right? Or at least within the realm of catchable. If that's your downfield passing game, you could score a lot of points with it. I mean, that's an effective downfield throw, and we have not had. I mean, we've been having guys who just miss dudes who are open downfield all the time, and if he can make that work, I think Cornelius Johnson's the kind of guy who could be a number 1 receiver in that kind of offense, and that really should help when we actually face teams where we have to back their safeties off, because we haven't had to do that quite much yet.
Did it seem like he had to come off of his first read at all? Because it felt like after Washington, when he was throwing to his first read, it was okay, but when he had to start working through his progressions or looking around, that's where things kind of went off the rails.
Yeah, and that's the book on Cade, right? He sees his first reads open, and that works. He sees his second read coming open. He's staying on his first read too long. I think Cade is a read before the snap kind of guy. All the times we've really liked something he did, he saw something before the snap. And I think he's actually really good at that, and I think that's why the coaches trust him and why he deserves to be the number 1 quarterback. This game, NIU was playing super soft because anytime that they tried to play up, you saw how badly they were getting beat. So, I mean, that's I don't know. They can probably do that against Rutgers too, but I don't know how many more teams on the schedule are going to give him that first read like he had. But yeah, it was kind of first ready.
And then you got to talk about Blake Corum. I don't just say something about Blake Corum. That will
Does
do.
that count?
That is sufficient.
I mean, Bryan kind of said it the other on Sunday, where like the first time he gets the ball, it's like, ooh, is this gonna be a 60-yard touchdown? No, but like that was cool. And then like the second time, like, no, but like then he puts his hand down and stays up. Like they were not trying to use him that much, but they were trying to get him touchdowns, which is why I was like, dude, this might be a Heisman campaign, just because Michigan's like pulling him out late in the game and being like, here, we're on the goal line. Go get another touchdown. The best run by a running back in this game I thought was Haskins, where like they actually beat like NIU's playing all these games with us on the edge, right? They're like, Michigan wants to run off the edge. We're gonna just deliver a bunch of guys to one side and stuff them, right? So they do that. They catch us in a split zone. It was a stretch zone with a split. So there's supposed to be a big gap, but they've got a linebacker swinging around back there. They've slanted everything, and they've got the exact perfect play call to deliver 3 guys for 1 blocker and 1 running back. And the blocker misses, and now it's 3-on-2 or 3-on-1. The one guy is in the hole. Haskins just makes him miss, and then the 2 guys are waiting near the at like the 3-yard line. He hits them, keeps running through them, and then falls over into the end zone. And like, dude, that is running back turning a loss into into a touchdown. And again, NIU caveats, but like let's not let our excitement over Blake Corum distract us from the fact that Hassan Haskins is also on his own one of the best backs in the Big Ten.
Yeah, and I thought 4 or 5 running backs look good, but it's Donovan Edwards on the long run.
Yeah,
really showed good burst. I mean, he was kind of gliding towards the hole and then put his foot in the ground, and he was at top speed in about 2 steps.
Yeah, and it was the kind of burst where like, yep, that's replicable against anyone, right? And
yeah,
like
looking for opponent independent stuff, that kind of stuff, and same with Corum when he puts his foot in the ground. It's you know that's going to be there no matter who's playing.
Yeah.
And that was
all right. That's our show, everybody. Thank you very much.
Boris is a mayor and a land surveyor with plans of his own. He hates a Ruska, he hates a vodka bandit from his home. He hates a Ruska, vodka. He never drank a single drop. He hates a Ruska, vodka. There's poison he swear to stop. He's singing la da 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 da.
Wait. What did we not mention?
We didn't mention the punter. The punter's
He's awesome.
really good.
He's great. He's got like a 50-yarder. Yeah, he's got like a 50-yard
averaging
average.
53, I think.
That guy is incredible. What's his name?
Korsak.
Korsak's great. Go Blue!
Arena, no one's